The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Military Academy fell into absolute silence as Commander Zethrak's four-clawed hand struck the podium with a resounding crash. His reptilian features, scarred from countless battles across 3 star systems, twisted into the expression that had made entire battalions of cadets tremble. The bioluminescent patches along his neck flared bright orange, a clear warning to any who dared speak. Silence! His voice boomed through the vast chamber, the translator implants in every cadet's ear rendering his words in their native tongues. The next being who utters even a whisper will find themselves scrubbing plasma conduits until their scales fall off. 2,000 cadets from 47 different species sat rigid in their seats. The Viridian cadets' leaf-like appendages rustled nervously. The crystalline Zephyrite dimmed their inner light to barely visible levels. Even the typically boisterous Korthak warriors, with their thick hides and tusked faces, dared not move a muscle. Commander Zethrak had been addressing the disciplinary failures of the previous week. Failures that had resulted in 3 training accidents and 1 diplomatic incident with the Andromedan Trade Council. His rage was legendary, and rightfully so. In his 40-year career, he had never lost a single soldier under his command, a record unmatched in the entire Galactic Alliance. "You worthless excuses for future officers," he continued, his tail lashing behind him, "cannot seem to grasp the basic concept of following orders. When I say jump, you ask how high. When I say fire, you don't hesitate. When I say—" A soft sound interrupted him. Not quite a cough, not quite a clearing of throat, but distinctly human. Every eye in the hall turned toward the source, a small figure in the 3rd row, barely visible among the towering forms of his alien classmates. Cadet Marcus Chen, one of only 12 humans in the Academy's current roster, had his hand half raised. The temperature in the hall seemed to drop several degrees. Commander Zethrak's orange patches flared to brilliant crimson, a color that, in his species, indicated murderous intent. His voice was barely above a whisper, somehow more terrifying than his previous roaring. "Did a cadet just interrupt me?" Marcus stood slowly, his movements deliberate and calm despite the palpable terror radiating from every other being in the hall. At barely 6 feet tall, he was dwarfed by most of his classmates, his pale skin and dark hair making him appear almost fragile among the armored, scaled, and crystalline beings surrounding him. "Sir," Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly. In the silence, permission to speak. Commander Zethrak's jaw dropped open, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. In 30 years of teaching at the Academy, no cadet had ever dared to speak during one of his disciplinary lectures. The audacity was so unprecedented that for a moment, even his legendary rage was replaced by pure shock. The commander's voice cracked slightly. "You want to speak?" "Yes, sir," Marcus replied, still standing at attention. "I believe there's something important you and the other cadets need to hear." A collective intake of breath swept through the hall. Several of the more nervous species had begun unconsciously backing away from Marcus, as if his impending doom might somehow be contagious. Commander Zethrak's claws extended fully, scraping against the podium's metal surface with an ear-splitting screech. His neck patches had progressed beyond crimson to a deep, pulsing purple that none of the cadets had ever seen before. "Important?" he repeated, each syllable dripping with venom. "You think you have something important to say to me, cadet?" Marcus nodded once, sharply. "Sir, with respect, you're wrong about us." The hall erupted in barely suppressed gasps and clicks of shock. Even the usually stoic mechanoid's optical sensors flickered in what passed for surprise among their kind. "Wrong?" Commander Zethrak's voice rose to a roar that shook the very foundations of the building. "I am wrong?" "About failure, sir," Marcus continued, his voice steady and clear. "You said we failed last week. But Cadet Yixtal didn't fail when she threw herself between that overloading plasma conduit and 6 of her squad mates. Cadet Morgoth didn't fail when he carried Cadet Silandra 15 kilometers through hostile terrain with a broken leg. And the diplomatic incident? That happened because Cadet Sak refused to let the Andromedans execute a prisoner of war, even though it would have been easier to look the other way. The commander's rage seemed to freeze in place, his mouth still open but no sound emerging. Marcus stepped into the aisle, his movement drawing every eye in the massive hall. "Sir, you taught us that the first duty of an officer is to their people. Not to orders, not to regulations, to people. Every one of those failures happened because we put lives before protocol, because we put what's right before what's easy." He began walking toward the front of the hall, his footsteps echoing in the absolute silence. "You want to know why humans are in this academy? Why we're here despite being the youngest species in the Alliance? It's not because we're the strongest. Half the species here could snap us in half. It's not because we're the smartest. The Viridians have us beat by centuries of evolution." Marcus stopped directly in front of the podium, looking up at the towering reptilian commander. "We're here because when everyone else calculates the odds and follows protocol, humans ask a different question. What's the right thing to do?" The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Commander Zethrak's purple patches slowly began to fade, cycling through deep red, orange, and finally settling on a soft blue, a color most of the cadets had never seen from him before. "Cadet Chen," he said finally, his voice quiet but carrying clearly through the hall's acoustics. "Yes, sir?" "In my 40 years of service, I have never—" He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. "Had a cadet correct me and be absolutely right." The commander's posture straightened, and when he spoke again, his voice carried a note of something that might have been pride. "Class dismissed. All of you. Report to your tactical instructors. Except you, Cadet Chen." As 2,000 cadets filed out in stunned silence, Marcus remained at attention. Once the hall was empty except for the two of them, Commander Zethrak descended from his podium. "That," he said, his neck patches now glowing a warm golden color, "is exactly why humans make the finest officers in the galaxy." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet, Cadet. Tomorrow we start advanced leadership protocols. If you think you can handle speaking truth to power, let's see how you handle teaching others to do the same." As they walked toward the exit together, the massive reptilian commander and the small human cadet, the afternoon sun streaming through the hall's crystal windows seemed somehow brighter than before.